Hello everybody, welcome to my channel again. I'm Rhythm Shift and I'm back with another toy review. Today I'm taking a look at the Ghostbusters, I think this is called the Hasbro Ghostbusters Fright Features line, Egon Spengler. Now, very interested to take a look at this figure because, as I mentioned in my previous video, I've been getting back into my 5.5 inch scale collecting, digging out toys from my childhood and getting figures that together which fit in that scale and that world to build my own little universe. And when I first saw these in the shop, I kind of turned my nose at them and walked past them. I thought, oh, these look shit, they must be for little kids and stuff. But then I realized that Hasbro is doing something similar to what Mattel is doing with their Masters of the Universe Origins line, by making a line of figures which fit in with the old school retro Kenner Ghostbusters. Once I found that out, that these scale perfectly with those old school retro Kenner figures, I decided to hunt these down and take a look at them. So the first one I've got today is Egon Spengler. I picked up Egon and Winston today to get a taste of what the line's like. If I like it, I'll go all in and pick up the other figures. But here he is in the box, and I got him for a good price actually. This was only £9.99, which is very good for action figure. A very good price for action figure in 2022. Comes with his Proton Pack, a pretty crappy looking ghost, if I might say so. See, this is one of the problems I had with Kenner's Ghostbusters, and that's the fact that a lot of the ghosts were very lackluster. You know, they weren't very interesting in any capacity, except some of the early ones, like the Gooper ghosts, the first wave of larger ghost figures from the 80s. Those were pretty cool, although I never actually owned any at the time. I only had, of those larger ghosts, I only had Slimer and Stay Puft. And I just used to use the pack-in figures that used to come with the Ghostbusters. For example, I've got a few here. This is the ghost that came with the Ecto 1. This is the ghost that came with the original Egon Spengler, the Gulper ghost, I think it's called. Here's Ray's one, the Rapper ghost, and Winston's one, Chomper ghost, and Dr. Venkman's one, the Grabber ghost, which was one of my favourites actually. I like this one because I love blue, and that translucent effect looks so cool. And when you get the ghosts in solid plastic like this, it just looks goofy. And you see, the kind of Ghostbusters world that I want to create is a serious one, with these really demonic entities and poltergeists and all this kind of stuff. I'm actually thinking of sculpting some of my own ghosts because I'm so disappointed with what Kenner's produced. Not Kenner anymore, now it's Hasbro. So we need to get out of the old pattern of old Stay Puft, Marshmallow Man, Terror Dog, Slimer. Come on, man. I mean, there's no creativity there, and the ghost should be the coolest part of this toy line. Just like in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you had these weird, funky-ass mutant monsters in some of the earlier waves. That's what really made the line cool to me. And with Ghostbusters, I mean, you keep getting, reissues of the same 4 Ghostbusters, but the ghosts are very lackluster. So I'm thinking of sculpting and designing some of my own and casting them, and I think that might go well. Either way, it says classic 1984 Ghostbusters Egon Spengler on the back. It says, Egon Spengler, the brain behind the busting. Egon Spengler takes on the most frightening ghosts in town. Okay. Interestingly, it looks like the package can be resealed once opened, so that's interesting. Comes with Ghost Fright feature. Well, there's nothing very scary about that. It looks stupid. Anyway, I'm going to get this out of the box and I'm going to take a look at him. Okay, so out of the box we've got Egon here. And first of all, let's start with how tall he is. So he stands at approximately 5.5 inches, which is a great scale, because that means he fits in with the vintage Kenner Real Ghostbuster figures. I'll show a demonstration in just a moment, but first of all, we're going to take a look at the articulation of the figure. So all the Ghostbusters in this Hasbro Fright Features line share the same articulation, so you can rotate. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, the classic 5 points of articulation. So bear with me, just adjust my light a bit. Maybe that's better. Right, so 5 points of articulation. You can rotate his head, left and right. You can move his arms up at the shoulders and down. You can also move his legs forward to get him in a seating position. That's pretty much it for the articulation. And you know, living in 2020 as a toy collector, sorry, 2022 now, forgive me. Living in 2022 as a toy collector, we've become accustomed to, you know, super articulated action figures, and I love my articulation for the most part. You know, as I've grown and matured as a toy collector from my childhood into adulthood, you know, articulation was one of the major selling points for me in terms of toy lines. But coming back to this, you know, traditional 5 POA at this scale, this actually feels like a homecoming for me, at least, because I really enjoy, you know, the simplicity of the figure. I mean, it reminds me of how I used to, you know, play with the figures as a child. It's enough for me to do what I want to do with him. So what I'm going to do is show you the accessories he comes with. So he comes first of all with his Proton Pack, as you can see here. You've got the pack itself, which is a okay sculpt, and you've got the some hose which connects to the neutrona wand, if I'm saying that right. But the thing is, the neutrona wand looks a little bit lackluster. I mean, it looks more like a garden watering hose than a neutrona wand to me. But what you can do is you can clip it onto his back, as would be expected for a Ghostbuster. Now, if you want to have it to the movie accurate configuration, you would have the wand pointing downwards. But I find that this creates a very unsightly bit of tubing, which just kind of gets in the way of the figure. So if I'm displaying him, I tend to forego the movie accuracy and pose it like that, and it kind of gives you a better look. Not perfect, but somewhat better. Now, in the hand, he holds the neutrona wand like this. And this is why I say it makes it look like it's a gardening watering hose. I mean, it's just not very dynamic. It's like, you know, going for a quiet stroll on a Sunday morning to water your roses or whatever. It just looks like that. It just really doesn't look like they're busting ghosts in this position. So that's a bit of a problem, I find. Now, he does come with one other accessory, which is his packing ghost here. On the package, the ghost didn't have a name that I could see, at least. So I guess we could just call this chubby guy, because it's like this cute looking little fat guy, which is a problem I have. You know, the ghosts don't look terrifying. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, for Ghostbusters, you need to have that element of terror and fear in there, along with the comedy. These just looked too cute. I don't know if you can make out the facial details on this one. I'll zoom in a bit. You know, it just looks like some cute little thing, and you've got a button on his back here, which if you press it, it's supposed to pop open, and ooh, this is scary, isn't it? You've got this stupid looking face here. Not very scary at all. It's just frustrating for me. I hate the kiddification of things, if that's a word to use, you know. It's like, there's no terror in this, there's no fear in this. Why should you even care if this ghost is running rampant? And also another problem I have with this little packing ghost is that it's the exact same mould that came with my Winston Zedmore figure, and it's the exact same function. It's kind of difficult to press the button on the back because it's small, and it pops open, and ooh, you've got a ghoulish looking little face in there, and it's the same. Which is annoying for me, because one variation of Winston came with the Slimer, who actually looked pretty cool and did have a nice Fright feature. But I'll have to see if I can track that variant down at some point, if that's the case. If not, I'll just make do with what I've got, because I've got these for a very nice price. They were $9.99 over here in the UK, so I can't really complain for the price point. But at least the ghost is at least you do get a ghost. I'd rather you get one than you don't. From the back, as you can see, it looks like that. So those are his two accessories that he comes with, the Proton Pack and the ghost. Now, that's pretty similar to what you would get in the vintage Kenner-Real Ghostbusters line. So that's, you know, a nice thing to consider. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my vintage Real Ghostbuster Egon Spengler figure from the 80s. This isn't the reissue, this is the original release from 1986, I believe. This is the one I played with as a child, and as you can see, let's get the tape measure out again. This was the main selling point for me on this line, because you can clearly see which stands at 5.5 inches. The vintage Egon stands also at 5.5 inches, which means I can combine worlds, so to speak. I can have my new Hasbro Fright Features Ghostbusters fit in with the same scale as my vintage Kenner. Now I've got the Proton Pack for my vintage Egon, and see, the problem with this is that these vintage Proton Packs, they're very brittle, and they had a tendency to snap. So as you can see, this one's broken. This is one I have from my childhood. And also the streams, there's no proton stream with this Fright Features Egon, which again doesn't make him look like he's actually busting a ghost. I hated these proton streams in the 80s because they weren't removable, but I think they could have included something that you could attach to the end of his proton neutrino one to make the proton stream look like it's firing. See, I'm just doing it here by holding it next to it. It looks much more cooler. I'm going to put this pack on Real Ghostbusters Egon, and I'll say this: I do prefer the 80s Real Ghostbusters Proton Pack design to the one that they've given us here with the Hasbro Fright Features, and I'll show you why. Because first of all, it has a better sculpt. Like this Kenner Real Ghostbusters pack feels solid. It's cast in a solid plastic, and you've got lots of sculpted in details which give you a very nice, tactile sensation of how it feels. This one is a lot thinner. It's made of a flexible type of rubbery material, not as thick plastic as this one. So as it feels in the hands, this doesn't really feel solid. I mean, it's functional, but this feels much more fun to touch, and you get a better tactile sensation. You've got the variation in textures with the string here. This is all just one molded out of one piece. So I'll show you the connectors too, unfortunately. So this is the vintage Kenner Real Ghostbusters Connector Peg. This is the Fright Features Connector Peg. It's in a sort of semicircular shape, if you can see it in the light there. This is more of a circular shape. This is a semicircle. And if I show you both the backs of the figures, as you can see, he's got a semicircular shape on his back here, and vintage Egon's got a circular shape. So if I was to try connect this old school Proton Pack to the new version, it won't connect. And likewise, if I take the new Proton Pack, try to connect it to old school Egon, it will go in, but there's nothing to hold it in place. It just falls out. So it just falls out. Okay. So with that being said, I did notice something in terms of the way the hands are sculpted. There's something very questionable about the sculpting of the hands on this figure, because they're both facing inwards. And I thought, that's a strange pose to have a Ghostbusters hands. They're not facing straight. So my first thought was, well, maybe they did that so that when he's sitting in the Ecto 1, he will look like he can actually be driving it, his hands on the steering wheel. But I thought, still, that's a bit strange. There's something strange, and it don't look good. So I thought, well, what if I was to do this? What if I was to take this vintage Real Ghostbusters Neutrona wand and put it in his hand? How would it look? So if I do it here, I've got to be very gentle because these Proton Packs are so brittle, delicate. But if I make him hold it in his hand like that, see, you can hold it at this angle. Now what you can do is, if you angle it around, put it in his hand deeper, there. If I angle it around, you can actually make it look like he's holding the Neutrona one with two hands, and that looks much more like a, if I tilt his head, like he's actually firing the Neutrona one at a ghost. I mean, and you can still do the twirling. Let's take a shadow. You can still like go. That looks much better than like if he's busting this ghost. That looks much more dynamic. So I think the hands were sculpted in this kind of angle to hold this type of Neutrona wand. It looks much better than the garden watering hose that he has before. So with this in mind, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try and fix these old school Kenner neutrino ones because I've got some broken in different parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a customization. I'm going to, because you can see the mold line here going across the top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take two of them, cut them in half. Like for example, I've got a Winston's one here. Let me see, where's Winston's one? Winston's Edamore from the Real Ghostbusters Neutrona one isn't as broken as some of the others. I've got both square hand connecting tabs intact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this in half and I'm going to cut this in half. So I'm going to save the back part of that and save the front part of this. Recast them, remold them. Once they're molded, I'll be able to put them together and I'll have a perfectly intact neutrona wand, and I can replicate that for all Ghostbusters. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a mold also of the Proton Pack itself, reproduce it, cut the tab off, take a mold of this one, cut the tab off, take the tab, stick it to this pack, so these busters will have these Proton Packs. So, and they'll have these neutrino ones because I'll be able to reproduce them in theory. That's what I plan to do at least. And when I do that, I think I'll be happier. And also I'm going to try and do something where I can actually remove these proton streams. Well, I guess if you can separate these halves, you should be able to take these proton streams in and out in theory. So it's going to be a bit scary because I'm going to be basically destroying my childhood figures, but hopefully for the greater good. You can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs, to quote the Joker from Batman in 1989. So I think I'm going to do that. That's going to be a very interesting bit of work. But I think I'll be much happier with the figures when I do that. So another comparison I want to show here is what ghost did Egon come with in the vintage line. So just got to get these ghosts out of here. Out of the containment unit. Bear with me a moment. So, originally in the vintage line, Egon came with the Gulper Ghost, which is this ghost here, which is cool. I love the original packing ghost that had this translucent effect when you put the light behind them. Have I got any lights? Got a light here. Don't know if it will show very well, but they had this effect where if you put the light behind them, you can see how translucent they are. They look kind of like they're glowing. That's a very cool effect that fascinated me as a child in the 80s. Now that's something that you don't get with these new packing ghosts, unfortunately, because they're made out of a solid plastic. They have no translucency, so you don't really get that ghostly effect. Again, another flaw for this figure, but it's okay. It's okay because at the end of the day, it's nice to have more ghosts to bust. And that's something else I'm also thinking of doing. I mean, these little sculpts, they're not that complicated. So I'm thinking, well, I might actually be able to design my own little ghosts and sculpt them and make them and have more ghosts for my busters to bust. And I want to show a little feature here. This is a good thing because if you have the Kenner Real Ghostbusters Firehouse, hopefully you'll have the Ecto Containment unit which came with it, which I still have. Now what you can do is you can take that old school trap, if I can find it. Where is it? Here it is. And these ghosts, they sit at around the same height, which is great. So what you do is you can see they stand at just about 2 inches high. So the same scale. Now with the vintage Kenner Real Ghostbusters Firehouse, you've got the Ecto Containment unit with the trap. This is the trap. It's pretty large, but hey, it was fun back in the day. You take this trap, you put it over the ghost, you slide it in like that, you've got the ghost captured. Now what you would do is you would have the containment unit and you put this trap on top, slide it to the right. There you go, slide it back. When the light goes green, the trap is clean and the ghost is contained and the trap is empty. That was a really fun feature to use in my play patterns when I was a child with the Ghostbusters. So the good thing about these what do you call it, Fright features ghosts is that they're the same scale, so you can do the same thing. Trap the ghost, capture it, get the containment unit, put it on, slide it to the right. Once again, when the light goes green, the trap is clean, and you have your ghost captured. So that's really, really cool. That you can fit the ghosts in the trap like that. So that's another major selling point for me for these particular Fright features figures. So I'm very, very happy about that. What I'm going to do is, I've got my Ecto 1 here, I've got my Firehouse and a few other bits and pieces. I think I've got the Ecto 2 also lying around, and once I've reviewed all 4 Busters, I'll do a video hopefully demonstrating how these new Hasbro Fright features Ghostbusters fit in with all those old vintage Kenner play sets and vehicles, and see how they look. But I'll review all 4 Busters first, and then I might do a dedicated video demonstrating those things, because I think that would make a very good video in itself, rather than me doing it 4 times with all 4 Busters. So I'm going to get one more figure and we're going to do a comparison. Okay, so here's a comparison between the three Egon Spengler figures that I have in my collection. Here we have my first 1986 Kenner Real Ghostbusters. This is the Diamond Select Real Ghostbusters version of Egon. 7-inch this figure is. I believe that's in the 7-inch scale. And finally, we have my modern Fright features Hasbro Egon Spangler figure. So you can see how they all look here. If I rotate this, so you can see how they all look together. And I'm very happy for the most part with this figure. As I said, the Neutrona one is a bit of a disappointment because it doesn't come with a proton stream. I should mention this Real Ghostbusters Diamond Select Egon does come with a proton stream, but I don't have it with me at the moment. It's packed away, so I'm not displaying it. But otherwise, he's a good figure, and I'm really happy for the most part because he fits in with my Kenner Real Ghostbuster collection from my childhood. So that gives a little bit more life to my childhood toys. Like, in the same way that Masters of the Universe Origins has rekindled my passion for my vintage He-Man figures, this Fright features Egon has also rekindled my passion for my vintage Real Ghostbusters toys and prompted me to dig them out of storage. So overall, I really like this figure. I would highly recommend it for anybody who was a fan of the Kenner Real Ghostbusters line, such as myself. Well, at least for the first 2 waves or 3 waves, and then it started to get a bit silly. I kind of stopped collecting when the Fright features figures came out, where the Ghostbusters had those wacky action features. I mean, that's really what made me drop the line. And also, I didn't like the monsters. The monsters were pretty shit after they'd done the Gooper Ghosts. It all went downhill after there. The Gooper Ghosts were pretty good, but after that, the designs became less creative, less imaginative, and I lost interest in the Ghostbusters toy line. So at that point, so yeah, I'd recommend this figure. I'm very happy with him so far. I'm going to be moving on and doing a review of Winston and also Ray, and I'm still waiting for Peter to arrive. I think that should be coming in a few days. I already ordered that off Amazon. Should be delivered around Sunday, I think. So I'll have completed the all 4 Busters, but I think I'll probably get the characters from Afterlife as well. I haven't watched the film. I don't know if I will watch the film, but I think it's cool having more Ghostbusters characters in this scale, because I don't know if I'll follow the story of the film. I can make them anybody I want, you know. I can invent my own storyline with these figures and make my own little world, you know. You don't have to go by the established canon of the movies or the cartoon. You can create your own universe with these toys, and I think that's one of the things which, in my mind, what toys are all about. You know, using these as avatars for your imagination to create your own storylines and adventures. So yeah, I hope that's been a good look at these figures. If you're to maybe whet your appetite if you're interested in getting into this line. And yeah, I'll be doing more reviews, so please check back, and I guess I'll catch you on the next one. Right, take care for now.